Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my Platinum 1 Drytron deck profile for, I guess, both this format and next format. So the funny thing is, I decided to try out the 1 Benten in Master Duel, even though that format is like 2 weeks away. I just wanted to try it out and just, give a good idea for it, since, here in the TCG, we already have Benten at 1, so it's not really too big of a deal. In fact, this deck is still even more powerful in Master Duel because we still have Ava access, so that's pretty cool. So this is the list I decided to come up with. This is a perfection build instead of an ultimateness build. If you want ultimateness, you could probably just take one of my previous builds and just cut the Bentens down to 2 and then just play that deck. But I think that this deck is a little bit more consistent, and it's actually really fun, and it plays through hand traps a little bit better. So that's why I've decided to land on this list instead. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through the list. We got the 1 copy of Ava. I know you could play multiples of this, but I don't really see too much of a point to do that. The reason I don't see the reason to do that, I guess, is because usually if you just negate like 2 or 3 cards, you're gonna win the duel anyways. So I think Ava is fine at 1. If you play multiples, yeah, you'll add a little bit more power to the deck, but at the same time, you're going to be losing out on a little bit of consistency. So I think that just playing the 1 Ava is fine. Next, we have the 3 copies of Alpha, 3 Gamma, 3 Zeta, and 2 Delta. So I've landed on these ratios because I think that they are probably closer to what I want. If you wanted to play another one, you could probably just play the 3rd Delta, and then that would probably work pretty well. But for now, I think these ratios are pretty good. 2 copies of Orange Light, 1 Maxx C. The reason we're playing one of a Maxx C is because we're playing Cross Out, so we can cross out it. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Diviner, 1 Ash for the same reason as we're playing the Maxx C. These 2 hand traps are the most popular hand traps, so we're playing those. You could also play Imperm, Veiler, stuff like that, but they're not played as much, so I don't think I see too much of a point to do that. Then for rituals, we're playing Natasha, Benten, Idaten, and Perfection. I haven't found a big reason to play Draconids in this list. You could play it if you really wanted to, but it hasn't came up for me yet. Maybe when DPE gets released, then I think that there is way more of an argument to play that card because it's going to be Scythe Lock everywhere. So I think that playing when the DPE comes around, this build's going to change a lot. But for right now, I think that this is a pretty solid list. Next, we got 1 copy of Feather Duster, 3 Emergency, 3 Prep, 3 Preparation, 3 Pre-Prep, and then 3 Nova, 2 Fafnir, 1 Dawn, 1 Medionis, 2 Called By, 2 Cross Out, 1 Red Reboot. So the reason we're playing Red Reboot and the Harpy's Feather Duster is to counter Eldlich, because that is a pretty popular deck as well. Yeah, that's about it for the main deck. Moving on into the extra deck, we're playing 1 Entis, 1 Arclight, Lyreless Assembled Nightingale, Fafnir, Downward Magician, Beatrice, Zeus, Link Karibo, Phoenix, IP, Unicorn, Appaloosa, Access Code, and Underworld Goddess. So the reason we're playing Underworld Goddess is because of Crooked Cook. I've explained this in previous profiles before, but that is the reason why. I think when DPE release, we're probably going to be playing the DPE package because it's insane. If you can just hand trapped a bunch of times, you can just end on just like a DPE. So I think you would cut Nightingale and you would cut the Goddess for Verte and for DPE respectively. But yeah, that's about it. I'll probably do another profile when that gets released, but for right now, I think that this is next format's Drytron deck list, what you should be playing. I got Platinum 1 with it. I just took 2 Bentens out of my deck, went to play in Platinum, and I went from Platinum 3 to Platinum 1. So this deck clearly works, even in the old format, which is kind of insane. So it's definitely going to work in the new format. So let's go ahead and get into some games. Alright, so for our first match today, we are up against Invoked Dogmatika, and I believe that I am going first, and I believe... we'll see what the replay does, but I don't remember exactly. No, I am actually going second. Okay, so he starts off with a Nadir Servant, we hit him with an Ash, and then I think that he just passes here. So, yeah, he passes. Our hand isn't super great, so we're gonna have to see if we can play through this. So we have a Zeta that can possibly get us into a Dawn, but that's gonna get hit with a Maxx C. So this is gonna be a little bit awkward. I think what we ultimately decide to do is to kind of play into this, but not really, so that we don't die. So I think that what we do is we go preparation to search. He hits us with another copy of Ash. So, or I guess not another copy, but his own copy of Ash. So that's going to make it a little bit awkward. We were going to go for a Dawn route by tributing a Benten, but that's not exactly going to work. So we ended up going Gamma's Effect, tributing Zeta, summoning it, and then we're going to overlay for a copy of Fafnir, I believe. Yep, so we go with Fafnir. We go Fafnir's effect to send Alpha to grave, and then we go into battle and we just attack. And then from here, we're just going to make a Zeus and then hope it's enough, realistically. So we overlay for Downard and then go for a Zeus. And then I think that we have to pass here. So I'm going to speed this replay up a little bit. And then we pass for turn. He's got a bunch of cards in hand, but hopefully like we can just survive another turn with Zeus. So off this Prosperity, he can grab an Imperm, which is like literally the perfect card he needs to out the Zeus. So that's really insane. He's going to go normal summon the Alistair, which he already has the invocation in hand. He probably has a second invocation in hand because he didn't search with Alistair. So yeah, he's going to go ahead and go for Invoked Dogmatika. Banishing our Alpha, which is going to be really annoying, but it's whatever. Invocation's going to add back the Alistair back to hand. He's going to go Maximus Effect to summon it, and then he's going to use Maximus Effect to send. Unfortunately for him, we have cards in our extra deck, so I don't know why he did this, especially because Drytron normally plays these, so like, I don't know. So I go, he goes Apcolone, I go Chain Arclight, and then Chain Entis. So he's forced to negate the Entis, but the Arclight's going to get us to search for Benten, which sets us up perfectly for the next turn, because then we just have a Dawn Benten Perfection play, so we can play through like infinite hand traps, basically, or just whatever he has set up. So that was the plan. So yeah, he ends up destroying it. It's fine, whatever, or banishing the Entis. Apcolone gets him to search for Wendy, and he discards it and then uses the effect to set a beast from deck. So realistically, I don't know why he like was sending that. I feel like it's better to search for the trap card, because then you can make out or Winda on my turn, but he ended up not doing that. So he summons Fleur de Lis here. Ironically, you can't use the effect to negate because Zeus is already negated, which isn't going to come out because he's just going to go battle phase and attack over it anyways, but it's just going to put in some damage, I guess, is what he was thinking. It's also half damage because of Prosperity, so we're completely fine here. He had to realistically put 16,000 damage, which was not going to happen. So we have an extra turn. We have Dawn of the Herald, so we're going to go ahead and activate that, tributing the Benten, summoning Perfection. And then from here, we see a set card here because we're able to bait it out, because we use the Dawn to add back the Benten, and we're also going to get a Benten search. So we're going to have two fairies in hand, so we're going to have two negates. So that deals with the Makaba, and that deals with whatever his back row is. So we're forcing out his back row right here. Otherwise, he won't be able to respond with it later. So his back row ends up being Dogmatika Punishment, so he can send a card from his extra deck to the grave to pop the Perfection, which isn't going to be a big deal, because then we can just go ahead and just add back the Benten. We can play normally, and so we add a Diviner here. So I'm normal summoning the Diviner here to bait out the Makaba negate, which ends up doing, which is really weird, because I have no more fairies in my extra deck, so summoning this Diviner literally does nothing, because my Entis and my Arclight were both used. So I didn't have a fairy to send from my extra deck to the grave, so this was literally just a bait, and it worked. What I would have done if he didn't negate this is I would have sent Ava, and then Ava could banish the Arclight, and it could banish the Diviner, and I could search for a negate, so it would deal with the Makaba either way. But realistically, I don't know why he negated this, but either way, we were able to deal with the negate anyways. So that was totally fine with me. I believe he discarded. Oh yeah, it was Ecclesia. So I'm pretty certain he has another Alistair in hand, because he discarded an Alistair in damage step. So I'm pretty sure he has another one. So we use Gamma's effect, tributing the Benten, searching Ava. So now we have another way to like deal with the negate, possibly, if we can send this to the grave somehow. So then we go for Medionis here to summon Perfection, and then from here we're safe because we have the Ava. We go pre-prep, search Natasha. We have the Benten engraved to banish, so we can take something as well, which is pretty nice. So we use our Medionis to summon back the Benten. And we still have another use of Medionis, so it's not like too big of a deal to use it. And he's just going to scoop here, which is really funny. But yeah, we definitely probably could have had game on board, I'm pretty certain, because we still had a Zeta effect as well as the alpha, and then we could have like climbed into like access code, and Natasha would have taken one of his monsters, popped 2 cards. I'm pretty sure that we had game from there. Okay, so our next match is up against Virtual World, and I believe that we do go first. Which is really cool because we ended up using our pre-prep and this gets ashed. So this is like one of the best reasons to play this deck because pre-prep is just an ash bait. Every time that you activate this, they have to chain ash, otherwise you're just going to get a free copy of Herald to your hand. So this always gets ashed, which is really good because then it makes the rest of your hand just able to be played freely, which is so nice. So he ashes this, which is completely fine by me because we have a Gamma Zeta combo. So the Gamma Zeta combo is only you're only able to do it if you have 2 Fafnirs. I mean, there are ways to do it without it, but you go Gamma Tribute Zeta and then you overlay Fafnir. And then from here, you use the Fafnir effect to send Alpha from deck to grave, and then Alpha tributes the Fafnir. What this does is it makes it so that you have the Zeta still in grave that you haven't used. So we're going to use that Zeta effect, tributing the Benten to search for the Meteonis, as well as get a Fairy search for the Diviner. Then we can overlay for the copy of Fafnir, even though we can't use the effect, it's still like extra materials that we can use, which is really nice. So we're going to go Diviner effect, sending to summon Perfection, and then we can go Meteonis to bring back to Benten. And then from here we can overlay for a Beatrice, and then we can use Beatrice's effect to send a Delta to the grave. Meteonis is going to target the Fafnir and add it back to hand, and then we're going to use the Delta effect tributing the Perfection to reveal the Meteonis and draw a card. So these 3 cards are still unknown to our opponent, so this was still a 2-card combo. We're going to summon back the Perfection by tributing the material under Fafnir, and then with the remaining 2 bodies on the board, we can just turn those into an IP. So this is basically like the full board, but like not really. We can use the Beatrice to send Ava to grave, and then we can banish the 2 fairies to get 2 negates. Ignoring the 2 cards in our hand, this would be 3 interruptions. It would be the 2 fairies we searched, the IP, and the Beatrice. IP turning something into most likely Unicorn. So it would still be like 3 interruptions, which is fine. But we do also have the Natasha for a 4th interruption. So we're honestly pretty good here. So he activates Qinglong. The problem with this is that it immediately answers our Perfection if he has a Virtual card in grave, as well as if he has any Virtual World cards in hand, he can just immediately play. Kind of the problem with Virtual World is, though, that you already have to have a card face up on the field in order to play. So if we're just going to negate this, then he's not going to have any way to trigger any of his Virtual Worlds. But he did have a second one, which is pretty annoying. So we do have to negate this one also, because since he has a Virtual card in grave, this is like even more of a reason to negate it, because then our Perfection is just going to turn offline. Because an important thing to note is that Perfection can only negate the activations of spells. So if the card's already resolved on the field and it activates the effect banishing a Virtual World from the grave to negate, we can't respond to that because Perfection can't negate the effects of spells, it can only negate the activations. Anyways, so we negate the activation of the Qinglong and see what he has from here. He activates a Foolish Burial Goods. There's no reason to negate this, so I say that's fine, especially because all the Virtual World effects in the grave are all inherently -1s. But he has a Pot of Desires, which we're not letting through. And the really nice thing here is that as soon as we negate this, we know we're completely safe, because the Qinglong and the Zhanwu, they all have to send a card from your hand to the grave in order to resolve, and Virtual World needs 2 cards at the bare minimum to play. So if we just negate this here, then he can't play for the rest of the turn, which is really funny because we end up finding out this last card in his hand is a driver. We ended up linking everything off into an Appaloosa just in case anyways, like just in case. And the reason I did this is because I had a Gamma in hand. I could have realistically left him for Unicorn, but because I knew I had a Gamma in hand, I knew I had follow-up in the forms of my Drytrons in the graveyard, so I could use every effect in the Drytron, every Drytron effect in my graveyard on the following turn with no like repercussions. So he's gonna search a Lulu with a Qinglong, discarding driver, and he has to pass because like he could normal summon Lulu, but it doesn't do anything. Like the Appaloosa is just gonna kill it. So There's no reason to summon the Lulu. He has to pass. Hope he top decks like any Virtual World card, or he survives the turn, because then his King Long can then search him another Virtual World card. But nope, he's not going to survive the next turn because we have a full graveyard full of Drytrons. So we can use our Alpha, Tribute, search Idaten, and then use our Delta to get a free draw here. And then we can use the Cyber Emergency we top deck to get a Zeta. And then we can just basically just play for free here. I'm pretty sure he scoops at some point. If I remember correctly. I don't remember actually if he does. But yeah, we have like Gamma, we can trigger the Benten, we just get free searches. So we have everything we need here. I think here's maybe where he scoops. Or maybe not. Oh, maybe this game he doesn't scoop actually, because we're going to normal summon Diviner, make access code, and then from here this is going to be game. And I was completely safe throughout all of this just in case because I had the Appaloosa, but realistically we knew every card he had, so there was no reason for me to like be worried about anything. Even if I didn't have Appaloosa is what I mean. Our next match is going to be up against Zombies. And funnily enough, I believe this guy actually had like 2, maybe 3 interruptions. So yeah, he has an Ash for our pre-prep, which is completely fine by me because we have 3 Drytron names, so we can play regardless. So we're completely fine here. We can go Fafnir to search for the Nova. As long as he doesn't have Maxx, we should be fine. So we summon off of Nova, and at this point I knew, yeah, we're completely fine because he doesn't have Maxx. So we go Alpha Effect Tribute Delta to summon itself, searching the Benten, and then we can use this Delta tributing Gamma to get a free draw, revealing the Benten. And then we can overlay these two into a Fafnir, and then we can use Fafnir to send Zeta, which is the last Drytron we need, tributing the Benten to summon itself, search the field spell, or not the field spell, the virtual spell, and then grab Diviner. And I was pretty certain he had Imperm or Veiler at this point because as soon as I summoned the Alpha off of Nova, he had a chance to respond to something, which he didn't have prior to the activation of Nova. So I was pretty certain he could only respond if I had a monster on field, which entails that he has Veiler or Imperm because that would be the card he would use. So I tried to bait it out with a Fafnir because I had like infinite Drytrons. I was like, fine. But he didn't negate the Fafnir, which is probably what he should have done. Although I still had like Diviner access through like the Gamma tributing Benten if I got Veilered, but it didn't matter. So I'm gonna use the Medionis here. I was pretty certain he was gonna save the Imperm for my Diviner. So I was trying to get as much value as possible out of everything else first before summoning the Diviner to see if he would just like bait it out for whatever reason. But yep, he uses the Imperm on the Diviner, which is completely fine with me. I was just going to get a search for the Perfection, but honestly, I could just get the search with Perfection through the Benten, so I'm pretty sure that's what I do. Oh, no, in this case, I actually search Idaten. So I go Appaloosa here with the 4 cards we had, so we get a free Appaloosa, which is insane. Then we can go for a Medionis to summon the Idaten, and there are some scenarios where the Idaten actually searches for the Dawn of Herald, which I think will come up later. Anyways, so we're adding back the Medionis back from the grave. We're going to summon the Benten back in this case, which is really funny because then we can overlay those for a Beatrice so we can still have a negate. So in this case, we only have 1 negate in hand plus the Maxx, so we have 2 forms of interaction like through our hand, but he has another Imperm for Appaloosa, which is going to be really annoying. He summons Glow Up Bloom, so I hit him with a Maxx here to see what he does. He has an Ash for my Maxx, which I think I probably should have let resolve, honestly, because like what else could you have that really does this? If he has another extender, he makes Hulk, but then I just orange light it, so I probably should have just let this go through, but I decided to orange light it just to make sure, because my thought process here was, oh, if he can still extend and kill me, then I'm gonna draw into like a bunch of like cards for the next turn, so I'm gonna be fine. Realistically, that was a bad thought process. I should have just held the orange light in the Diviner, because he had a call by for it anyways, which wouldn't have really mattered in the long run. But yeah, anyways, so it doesn't change anything because I would have just negated this and then he would have chained the call by anyways, so it's not like it's gonna matter at all. So he goes Link Karibo, uses the Glow Bloom to search for the Billardock. He goes into battle phase, and so at the start of battle phase, I use Link Creepo effect. It's important that you do it at the start of the battle phase, because if you do it on attack declaration, you actually can't trigger the effect of Link Creepo, because it activates when an opponent's monster declares an attack. So if you activate it when they declare an attack, then by the time it summons, you actually can't use Link Creepo's effect. So that's a very important thing to note, is that as soon as the battle phase starts, you have to use the Link Creepo effect preemptively. So, yeah, so he goes and he uses the Link Creepo to attack the Appaloosa, which I'm going to use the Link Creepo's effect to reduce his attack to 0. He still attacks, and funnily enough, I don't know if you guys know this interaction, but when two 0 attack monsters attack each other, they both don't die. Normally, when monsters have the same attack, they would both die, but because they both have 0 attack, they don't die. So that's a really funny interaction. So yeah, we use Alpha's effect, attributing the Alpha we drew, or I think that we already had the Alpha in hand, but either way, yeah. And from that point, he's like, oh, you have another Drytron. Okay, you win. Alright, for our next match, we are up against Eldlich, I believe. And I think that we are going first, if I remember correctly. So we do have a pre-prep here, which is going to be insane. And this resolves, so it's pretty likely that he doesn't have Ash. But he has a Gamma for our Alpha, which is probably not okay. Yeah, we just have the orange light and the perfection for it, because like I really need this Alpha to resolve to search the Benten. So I decided to go ahead and negate that and then summon the Alpha, especially because I only had like another Drytron name. Like if I already had access to Benten through like prep or something like that, I maybe wouldn't have negated it, but in this case it's pretty important. So I decided to go into Link Creepo here because I'm going to use the Gamma effect anyways. This gets hard punished by like Cycle Reader normally in the TCG. I know that was pretty popular at one point, but realistically in Master Duel, no one's gonna be playing Cycle Reader, or probably DD Crow either. But in either case, if he did have like the DD Crow, I probably would have still done this anyways. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get our Gamma and our Alpha, and then we're gonna use our Benten to add Diviner. We don't have access into we already have both ritual spells, so there's no reason to go to Zeta, so I think that we go Delta here. And then we have the Medionis to bring back the Benten, and then we can use the effect of our Diviner to send the Arclight and get a search for Idleton. And then we can go the Delta's effect to summon itself, reveal the Idleton, and draw a card. We can use the Benten's effect to get a search for Ava, and then we can use the Medionis to get back the ritual spell back to hand. So we're going to target the Perfection here. So obviously Dawn can't summon from the grave, so this is a dead card in our hand for the rest of the duel, which is fine. We can just use it as discard material for our Unicorn or something like that. So I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Normally, like in the TCG, I would have just made an Appaloosa here, but because like a deck like Eldlich is really popular in Master Duel, I like to save the IP with the materials on the board, so I can make an Appaloosa if I need to, but more importantly, I can make a Unicorn if I really need to, which actually comes up, I believe, here. So he goes the effect of Eldlich to send the Perfection to grave, trying to bait it out, obviously, so we can just chain the Perfection here, and if he has something else, we can just chain it again. But he has a Elixir, which is like completely fine with me. There's like no reason to negate this. But what I do here is I chain the IP, and so this does something very important, because I realized on the resolution he's going to have a card on the field. So what this does is we can use our IP to link it off with Unicorn, or link it off with the Link Creepo into Unicorn. And then we also have the Ava's effect that's going to trigger in a new chain. So we are going to negate the Eldlich. And then in a new chain here, we can go Ava's Chainlink 1 and then Unicorn is Chainlink 2, targeting the back row and shuffle it into the deck. Which means the Eldlich isn't going to be live unless he sets a card specifically from his hand. So that was a really, really funny interaction, but he just goes ahead and scoops here because there's no reason to play that. But yeah, this Unicorn, because like chaining the Ava is like insane, because if he had an Ash Blossom, he can't use it, which is really funny because we chain blocked it with the Unicorn. The Unicorn would be Chainlink 2. So yeah, that was a really cool interaction that came up, and I think that was pretty funny. For our next match, we are up against another Eldlich player, which is actually pretty funny. So we opened Dawn and Perfection, which is really weird. It would have been better if we opened like the pre-prep, but opening 2 1-ofs is actually insane. Actually, technically 3 1-ofs because of the Feather Duster. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and use this Nova to summon Alpha, and then we're going to link it off for a Link Creepo. And then we're going to use the Alpha's effect engrave to tribute the Gamma and search for Benten. So this is really important because we actually have the whole setup right here. So we've only committed to 3 summons, I think, the 1, 2, 3. So this will actually be the 4th summon. So we're going to be proof here for the rest of the combo, which is really funny. So we're going to use the Dawn here, tributing the Benten, summoning Perfection, and then we can go Chainlink 1 Benten, Chainlink 2 Dawn, and then we can add back the Benten back to hand so we can use it later, preferably for our Gamma's effect, and then we can also get a free search for our Diviner. Then from here we can normal summon the Diviner, use the effect send Arclight, Arclight adds Idaten, and then we can use the Gamma to tribute the Alpha, summon itself and the Alpha back to the field, make Fafnir, Fafnir's effect sends Delta to grave, which we can use tributing the Benten to summon itself, revealing the Idaten to draw, and then the Benten's going to get a search for Ava. So in this case we're going to have the 2 negates in hand, technically more, we're going to have 4 in hand because the Ava is going to search 2 more. So we technically have 4 negates in hand, and then we can turn these 2 into a IP, and then end on this board. So this is basically the same board as the last combo, because we can have like a Unicorn or a Appaloosa access throughout this, which is pretty important. And then we also still have the Fafnir with materials if we really need to on the following turn. So I prefer to keep the Fafnir, but if we don't need it, then it's fine. He starts off with an Extravagance, only banishing 3, and if he would have banished 6, I probably would have negated this, but there was no reason for me to negate it, so I was just like, alright, that's fine. So he adds Eldlich and then uses the effect to send the Elixir to try and bait out this Perfection, which I chain to send the Ava. So there was no reason for me to chain IP in this scenario to make Unicorn, because he's not going to have a set card in Resolution. So this is a little bit different than the previous game, but yeah. We're going to use the Ava to search 2 more fairies, so we're gonna have 3 extra negates. He sets a card and I immediately just use the Unicorn to spin here. I probably shouldn't have done this, but my thought process was that he's gonna use the Eldritch effect to send this to grave and then try and bait out the Perfection. So I was like, this is probably gonna be a Golden Land spell or trap. That was my thought process. So I went, okay, let's go Unicorn, discard the Zeta, and then just shuffle it back. So that's what I did. He uses the Elixir to set the Guardian, and then he just uses the Eldritch effect to send that to grave. So I think that might have even been the card that we shuffled back. I'm actually not sure. We actually can't see, like Master Rule just never shows us, which is really kind of annoying, but I wonder if that actually was. But we're going to use the Perfection here to negate this, because Eldritch is going to come out of 35. That's going to immediately clear over our Perfection, so we kind of have to negate this. So I discard the Diviner to negate it. And then I believe he has to pass here. He doesn't really have anything. He can use it to set like Sanguine, but like that's not going to matter. So we had the Feather Duster the whole time, so it's not going to matter anyways. He chains the Sanguine, and I was like, okay, he might be baiting me out, because what do we lose to here, right? We lose to Strike. If he has a Strike, this Perfection's gone, and then maybe he can like hit us with like a Wakera or something, and then we're like kind of like it like hurts pretty hard. So I was like, okay, yeah, Sanguine's fine. Like, I don't care about that. He chains Crackdown. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, he has to have Strike, right? Because, like, baiting this Crackdown isn't going to do anything. Like, he's going to take my Perfection, it's going to die, and then I get the Perfection back. So, like, there's no reason for me to negate this either. So I was like, okay, I let this resolve, see if he has another card. And he has nothing else. Turns out this was never a Strike to begin with, but if it was, that would have really sucked for us. So I'm really glad that I played it this way, because I like just keep in mind that, like, oh, if your opponent has back row, then, like, yeah. But it turns out it was just a conk the whole time. If this was a Strike, though, and we negated, like, we would have maybe, like, actually lost. So that would have been pretty funny. But nope, it was just a conk the whole time. Alright, so for our next match, we are up against Invoked Despia. And I'm not sure if I end up going first. It looks like I do. So I have a Diviner here. He hits me with a Maxx, which is going to be really annoying. But I think I had a plan for this. So my plan was to basically set up the Lairless assembled Nightingale. And what that does is it's just going to basically ensure that I can survive another turn. So we go Alpha's effect, or Cyber Emergency, search Alpha, and then we go Alpha Tribute Delta to search Perfection. So we're kind of set up for the next turn. We can use this Delta to tribute the Benten to grab the get a free draw, and then we can use the Benten to grab Ava from deck to hand. And then from here, we can just overlay for Nightingale and just kind of pass on this. So during the standby phase, I used the Lyrless assembled Nightingale to make sure I don't take any battle damage, which was the right play because he ended up having a Kaiju. So he Kaiju's my bird, but that doesn't matter because I'm not going to be taking any damage for the rest of the turn. So he goes and uses the invocation and banishes my Benten, which kind of hurts because it's the only copy of Benten. I don't know if he knows that I was playing like the one of Benten, or if he knows the ban list isn't in effect, but like assuming that we're playing previous format, that was definitely not the right call. He definitely should have hit the alpha or the delta, but whatever. It's whatever, I guess. Hitting the Benten, I guess, hurts me more, but he shouldn't have played it that way. So he ends up playing Despia. So he uses Dramaturge, which lets him summon itself back, and then he gets to search for a Luber. And then he can go into Draglubion with 2 level 8s here, which he definitely thinks he can kill me, because he goes for Numeron Dragon and then uses the effect to make it 9k, and it gave the animation for Final Blow, but I don't take any damage because of Nightingale. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't take any damage. He passes turn, which is really funny because this is the only card that can attack, so the Kaiju's still on the field. So I just use the Feather Duster anyways. There's no reason not to use it. Then I go Alpha Effect Tribute Zeta to search Natasha. I probably should have searched the other one, Idaten, first, which isn't really going to be a big deal either way. So we're going to use the Delta's effect to get a free draw as well. Zeta's effect is going to get itself, and we search for the Meteonis here, which, funnily enough, we actually never used. He ends up having a Maxx also, but we know that we're only playing through 1 interruption, which we can deal with, because if he uses the Macabre, we can Ava negate it, and then if he has another interruption, we can just use this Ava to search another negate. So we're like, fine, we can play through 2 interruptions pretty nicely, like 1 in hand and then 1 on field, which is the Macabre. So I feel pretty safe here. So I go Fafnir. He has an Ash forehead, and I realize like there's no reason for me to negate this because he would just chain the Macabre. So I decide, yeah, I'm just gonna let that resolve. I'm pretty sure I already I can get the Gamma through Nova anyways. So I'm like, okay, yeah, Ash is fine. We go Meteonis, and this is where he decides to use the Macabre negate, which we chain the Orange Light. So the Orange Light's gonna go ahead and kill it, and then we can go ahead and search another negate off of the Ava. So we can grab another copy of Diviner and then another copy of the Orange Light. We can also just Ritual Summon the Perfection, obviously, because we activated the Ritual spell. So yeah, now we're free. We're safe through another 2 hand traps, and then we use the Prep to add the Idaten, and now we're safe through 3 hand traps. And we can add the Meteonis back to our hand. So we are just chilling for the rest of the duel. So we can go Nova, and then we use Nova to go into IP, and then we use the Gamma to tribute the Idaten, and then we can also use the Idaten's effect here to boost up the Perfection, just in case, just it's kind of funny. We summon Appaloosa, so now we're extra safe. We can play through 5 interruptions. Then we can use the Meteonis to summon back Natasha, and then basically from here, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this Numeron Dragon with Natasha's effect. So we're going to go Phoenix, Natasha's effect, target this, and then we're just going to take it. And then, yeah, we gain 45 for the Disrespect. Use his Kaiju to kill his Draglubion. Disrespect even harder. And then we attack him for game with Numeron Dragon. So that's pretty funny. We just killed him throughout his own monsters. So yeah, that was a really funny duel. Okay, so for our last duel for today, this is the last duel that got me into Platinum 1. This is a duel against Bird Up, otherwise known as Tri-Brigade Lyrless. So we have a Cyber Emergency here. He hits us with an Ash. We have a Call By here, but I decide to let the Ash resolve. And the reason I do this is because the only other hand trap we're going to lose to here is Maxx, and we actually have full combo with Zeta Benten, and then we also have the Prep, which makes it even better. So I decide, yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to let this resolve, and I'm going to play fine. So that's exactly what I do. So I let the Ash resolve on the emergency. It's important to note that you actually can't add the emergency back because it wasn't negated. The activation wasn't negated. The effect was negated because Ash only negates effects. So if you were curious about that, that's why. Anyways, we're going to go Zeta effect, tribute Benten, add the ritual spell, and then Benten's effect's going to grab us Diviner, and then we can normal summon the Diviner, send the Arclight, and search. I believe we search for, oh, it looks like we search for Idaten here. We're going to use the Medionis to tribute the Zeta, summon the Benten, and we're going to go for Beatrice here. So this is a way you can combo with only one Drytron, specifically Zeta, is you can make the Beatrice and then use Beatrice's effect to send Gamma to grave, and then the Gamma is going to tribute the other ritual you have in hand, the one you searched off Benten, or I guess rather Diviner, and then you're going to summon it, and then you can immediately make a Fafnir and get another Drytron in grave. So this puts 3 Drytrons in circulation, off of just one Zeta, which is actually pretty insane. Well, it's more Zeta Benten, but you get the idea. We can also use the prep here to grab the perfection and then also grab the ritual spell from the grave back to hand, which is like actually insane. We can go Fafnir's effect to summon back the Idaten here, and then I believe that we actually go Idaten's effect to add Dawn from deck to hand. So a lot of people don't realize, but Idaten can also add from deck to hand, which is insane. So yeah, we add Dawn from our deck to hand, and then we use the Medionis to reduce our Fafnir, and then we can use the Medionis to tribute the material under Fafnir and go for Benten, and then we can use this Dawn to tribute the Benten that's on the field for our perfection. And then this is going to put up 4 negates because we're going to have the Benten in hand, we're going to have an Ava in hand, and then we can set up our board however else we want. So we're probably going to set up just an IP here with the Beatrice, which is also pretty insane. I think actually instead of searching for the Ava, you would normally search for Ava, but because we have Beatrice, we can just send Ava from deck to grave. So I think that we actually just search Diviner because this is just a better follow-up. So yeah, that's exactly what I do. I go into IP, and then from here, we're completely fine. I decide to keep this call by in hand, which realistically I should have set. But the reason I do is because I can just make a unicorn and then discard this, because I don't really want to discard the Benten, and I don't really want to discard the Diviner because it's a negate for perfection. So that was my thought process. I probably should have just discarded the call by to begin with. But yeah, this is the board I end on. I believe I believe I actually like missed my Delta draw, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could have drew a card off a Delta by tributing the Idaten, so I should be actually having an extra card in hand, and then that should have just been the set for the call by. So whatever I drew should have been the discard realistically. But yeah, I think if you draw the prep, what you do instead is that you use the Dawn to tribute the Idaten, and then you get the Idaten back in hand. So if I didn't have the prep, I think I would have Idaten instead. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong there, but that's, I believe, what would have happened. I don't remember. I know there's a combo that's like that. So he has an Ash here, which would have made this call by actually really important, but we didn't have it. So we go Perfection Negate here, because obviously we're going to get 2 free negates off of this, so we kind of need to negate this because we're going +1. So we're going to go Ava, banishing both Diviners. The reason I banish both Diviners specifically is because if he has a call by, then it's going to hit my Diviner as well. So yeah, Bird Call is activated here. This is like one of the best cards in Lairless, so we're just going to negate this as well, getting rid of the orange light that we searched. And then he has 2 cards left in hand. We have 2 negates, but I believe that I just let this Fractal resolve because my thought process is, okay, like, what does he get here? He gets a Fractal. Okay, if he summons this Fractal, banishes 2, I just negate that. His normal summon is gone, and he only has 1, like, I guess he'll have 2 engraved, but there's no, like, beast that summons itself from hand, except for Karis, but you have to have a discard, and he'll only have 1 other card in hand. So my thought process is that uses his normal summon, and I don't really care, honestly. Like, that's fine. Instead, he just decides to set a card and pass, because I think he realized what exactly I was doing. So yeah, he passes turn. I draw Delta for turn. I use Delta to tribute the Delta, draw off of the Benten, and then we use the Medionis to add back to hand. Zeta's going to tribute, summon itself, and then Benten searches for the orange light. We overlay for a Fafnir. It's also really funny to note that I had no access to Alpha throughout this entire combo until right now when I use this Fafnir to send the Alpha from deck to grave. But prior to all of this, I didn't use Alpha once. So that's actually really funny. You can still combo without Alpha. So yeah, we go the Alpha effect, tributing the whatever I think that was a Gamma, I don't remember, but then we make Link Revo, use the Gamma to summon itself and the Fafnir. We can link those off into Phoenix, I mean, from here we can just climb into like access code Appaloosa, whatever we really want. We can just game him. So it's not going to matter at all. We easily have game on board, especially because we can play through 2 interruptions. And this could be something, but we end up finding this is out. This is a Nerval, so this is the Fractal. So it doesn't matter in like any scenario. So yeah, we make access code Talker. We use access code effect to pop, and then I believe from here he just ends up scooping as soon as it gets destroyed. Alright, so here's the deck profile once again for you guys, and it just shows that one Benten doesn't change this deck at all. It's still just as powerful, and maybe even slightly more powerful because of like certain cards like the Preparation of Rites, honestly. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later.